Massive changes could be coming to the San Francisco Giants. According to one of their insiders for NBC Sports Bay Area, what does this mean for the three youngest players on the current starting lineup? We'll break all of that down here on SF Giants. But before we do that, make sure to go down below and hit that subscribe button as we get this channel started, and hit that notification tab as well so you stay notified of all future uploads. That would be greatly appreciated. Now, getting right into the discussion, like I said, we are talking about something Alex Pavlovich, the NBC Sports Bay Area head insider for the Giants, put out right after they got eliminated of playoff contention by the Cardinals once again. This makes it 7 of 8 years, I believe, that they have not reached the playoffs. Another, 500 or just below season for San Francisco. Just an underwhelming run for the team, such a storied franchise in San Francisco you don't love to see. But in this video, Pavlovich basically talks about what led to this collapse, what led to the Giants being one of the best teams in baseball to start the year and then ending up not even making the playoffs. However, that's not what we're discussing today. We are discussing something he said at the very end of the video. He talks about his plans for this offseason. As an insider, he's going to break down, obviously, rumors, free agent acquisitions, trades, stuff like that. And this is basically what he said. This is a tweet I put out. I said, in Pavlovich's most recent YouTube video, he obviously mentions the need for pitching and a bullpen rebuild, but he also makes an interesting note. There are a couple positions where I'm hearing things, some interesting things, about what they might do. Now, this opened the floodgates for Giants fans and hypotheticals and what they think this could mean, talking about different players who could be traded, things like that. And first of all, the first thing he mentions, obviously, the need for pitching and a bullpen rebuild. Those are quite obvious. The rotation fell off a cliff after the first half. Even Webb and Ray regressed a little bit. And then the bullpen, after trading two of your best bullpen arms at the trade deadline, Randy Rodriguez getting hurt, Eric Miller getting hurt, that group is going to need a complete rebuild this offseason, and there is no questions about that. However, we are going to talk about some of the position players he could be talking about in this short quote. This is going to be strictly trade opportunities that I think he might be mentioning in this one. But the first player I want to talk about is Elliot Ramos. Now, this is the first player that everybody in the comments jumped to when they first read this quote. I would think that's because of his poor defense, which is definitely an issue. It wasn't just a season where, he had a down year. He was a little bit below average defensively. This was an awful year. He was one of the worst, if not the worst defenders in all of baseball. He was awful out there, and the eye test matched that. In left field, there's a lot of plays where you're just kind of scratching your head, like, what are you even doing out there? Hopefully, that's something he can fix this offseason. I think it is. It seems like a mental thing at this point where it was so bad early on where it kind of just spiraled, and mentally he struggled out there defensively. But I do want to say I don't think it makes a ton of sense for the Giants to trade Elliot Ramos at this current moment for two reasons, really. First of all, he's your first homegrown outfielder who made an All-Star game since Chili Davis. It's been, like 40 years since that happened, and you don't just trade someone like that did something that, historic for your franchise. And then second of all, Elliot Ramos is a player that has the upside of, high 20s, 30 home run power. And with an expensive core of Rafael Devers, Willy Adames, Matt Chapman, even a Jung Hoo Lee is expensive. He is a cheap player. He's still only getting paid, in the 100,000s, and someone being that cheap around some of those expensive cores that has the upside that Elliot Ramos does, I think that's a big part. You can't just trade something like that where he could be one of your best hitters at such a cheap rate compared to the expensive core you have. That could be big for a payroll for a front office. So that is why I don't think he is necessarily the front runner to be traded this offseason. But there are two other players where I think it could definitely be possible. The first one is Patrick Bailey. I'm a big defender on the fact that I think his defense is extremely valuable, and I think it is worthy to be ran out there, the majority of games across an 162-game season. However, not a ton of people feel the same. They think, you can't just have a black hole at the bottom of the lineup, which I will say it hasn't been a black hole since the start of September. He's been swinging the bat really well, and who knows, maybe he figured something out, and maybe he's encouraged. It could be a big part going into 2026, And who knows, maybe he becomes a league average or just below hitter and becomes one of the most valuable players in baseball. However, a lot of fans don't agree, and they think that he is just not a big league hitter and he's a strict defender. And that could very well be the case. We'll kind of see next season. But just earlier this current season, Adley Rutschman was floated to the Giants in some, landing spots, rankings, some mock trades, things like that. And that is because the Orioles handed out a big-time extension to their top prospect at the time, Samuel Basallo, who is a catcher / DH. And Adley Rutschman was supposed to be their franchise catcher. He slowed down a little bit across his, I believe, 4 years in Major League Baseball. You can see here, these are the 4 seasons he's played in Major League Baseball. He got hurt this year, so that's why the game total isn't as high. But the bat has, I wouldn't say fallen off a cliff, but it has definitely regressed over the last couple of seasons. His first 2 years, he had a 134, 126 weighted runs created plus, and remember, 100 in that category is league average. He was a 5.5 win player both of those seasons, really impressive. His defense is, a little bit above average, pretty solid, but it was the bat that was really impressive for a catcher behind the plate. However, the last 2 seasons haven't been all that great offensively. Last year, he was still barely above average, but this season, a 93 weighted runs created plus. He is still a 1.3 win player, but Patrick Bailey is in the mid-3s right now, according to Fangraphs. I believe a 3.4, 3.5 win player, and he's doing that with a 75 WRC plus, so it's still below average. Yes, it's a 20-point difference, but I don't think it's necessarily going to work to trade for another below-average hitter. However, Buster Posey could say, I'm all in on winning. I want to bring in, an offensive bat behind the plate, as Patrick Bailey has been so bad back there offensively, and really shore up the bottom half of this order. It would be a move that kind of signals to the rest of Major League Baseball, I'm all in. I want to win a World Series. I'm going to go get what looked like a top 5 catcher in all of baseball just, a year ago. So that could be definitely a possibility for Buster Posey, the front office, and that could be one of the interesting things that Alex Pavlovich was talking about in that quote. Now, another player that I don't necessarily think he could get traded, but the Giants could make a trade for his position, is Casey Schmidt. Now, a lot of fans think second base is a position where the production needs to be upgraded. We thought Tyler Fitzgerald would be that guy heading into 2025. It ended up not happening. Casey Schmidt stepped in and was hot for a long time. Once Matt Chapman got hurt, he came back. He moved over to second. He was a productive bat at second base. He was hot for a while and looked like one of the better producing second basemen in the National League. However, he has tapered off a little bit to end the year. He hasn't been as good at the plate. Defensively, he'll be fine there at second base. It's not that big of a deal. And the thing I have on this is the upside of Casey Schmidt is one of the better second basemen in the National League, and I don't know if there are a ton of upgrades out there. These are the top hitting second baseman in all of baseball. If you go down to number 18, there is Casey Schmidt. He had a 99 weighted runs created plus, so just a point below league average offensively. But, there's 17 guys ahead of him, and these are for all second basemen with at least 200 plate appearances. And the 18 guys ahead of him, I don't necessarily see being traded. Maybe a Brett Beatty with the New York Mets, who's a controllable piece, but I don't see them trading him. A Nico Horner has 1 year left on the deal, I believe, and he's expensive. I don't know if the Giants would trade for that. I really don't necessarily know if there's a second baseman out there that is a real upgrade over Casey Schmidt that's available. The other one that I could see is Brandon Lau, who is a big power hitting second baseman. If you see there right in the middle at number 10, he did have 31 home runs this season as a second baseman, so that is obviously really impressive, and that could be an option the Giants go to really shore up this lineup and give the Giants one of the best lineups in the National League with, a core of Devers, Chapman, Adames. Bringing in a Brandon Lau would be huge for this lineup, but I really don't know if there's any available candidates out there that are an upgrade to Casey Schmidt, and Casey Schmidt at his best is one of the best second basemen in the National League. It is a relatively weak position in Major League Baseball, so it could be a spot where Casey Schmidt gets a full year of run there and really breaks out. We saw Elliot Ramos do it last year. Who knows? That could be a possibility. Now, Let me know down in the comments what you think about this entire quote. Obviously saying, I'm hearing some things, some interesting things about what they might do at some positions. Do you think that means Elliot Ramos in left field? Do you think that means right field, which we didn't even talk about? Do you think that means second base, catcher? What do you think that quote means exactly from Alex Pavlovich, the head insider for the Giants of NBC Sports Bay Area? I think there are definitely some interesting discussions about Elliot Ramos, Casey Schmidt, Patrick Bailey, even a Drew Gilbert in right field that could be upgraded. Who knows what he was talking about? We'll have to wait and see this offseason to see what the Giants end up doing in the trade market, in the free agent market. It'll definitely be an interesting offseason in 2025 going into 2026. But thank you for watching Giants Digest. Make sure to leave that comment. Let me know what you think. And tune in next time. Thanks.